What's up, everybody? It's Man of Low Moral Fiber here. My name's Luke, and in this video, I'm going to be continuing my Overpower Level 8 Sniper Zer0 playthrough. The last episode concluded with me working through the Wildlife Exploitation Preserve before meeting up with Roland in Sanctuary, and Roland gave us a note to take to the Slab King, and the Slab King's obviously going to end up being the last playable character from Borderlands 2 that we've yet to meet, and so that's pretty cool, and I liked that. I was worried that they weren't going to bring Brick into the very end, and that was saddening me a little bit. I knew they were going to bring him in eventually because they had brought all the other ones in, but it was irritating that it took so long for them to bring Brick in, because I actually did like Brick in Borderlands 1. Some people didn't like Brick because his action skill wasn't incredibly useful in the late game, and I can definitely understand that. That's, you know, an action skill that you don't like is something that would be a reason not to like a character. That's actually why I don't like Krieg. And I'm not saying Krieg's action skill isn't useful in the late game, but it isn't useful with some playstyles, actually. And the playstyle that it is useful with, I don't very much enjoy because I find it to be a little bit too luck-based for my personal preferences. I know that there are a lot of people that really like Krieg, and I just happen to not. And even though I didn't enjoy Brick's action skill in Borderlands 1, I still enjoyed playing Brick because I thought that his blaster playstyle was fun. And I guess that is a little bit contradictory that I don't like Krieg for that reason, but I do like Brick despite the fact that his action skill isn't my favorite. That's a little bit strange, I guess, but I do enjoy Brick's weapon play a lot more than I enjoy Krieg's weapon play. I really don't enjoy Krieg's Hellborn tree at all. It's just not something I like that much, personally. But, you know, everybody has different preferences and stuff. So we're going to be going in here to the Gauntlet, and I think that this is pretty cool because you can get several different types of enemy spawn configurations. I guess I want this over here. That's where I usually keep it. And it'll be a little bit different every time, and I think that's one of the beauties of Borderlands 2, that every time you play through the game, it'll has the chance to be a little bit different. It'll probably never be the same 2 times that you play through it, at least exactly the same, you know, enemy configuration-wise and stuff like that, and that's pretty cool. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and kill these 2 badass Goliaths real quick, just because. Alright, now we can concentrate on killing the rest of the enemies in here. This isn't incredibly difficult ordinarily, but like I said, the spawn configuration is going to be a little bit different every time. And it definitely has the potential to be quite difficult, so we'll see how we do. You can go up there on the platform that those badass Goliaths were on, and that will give you a little bit of cover that you might not have down here because the cover isn't plentiful down here. Wow, the back pedal is real. Gotta appreciate that. That guy about to die. He must have had a shield. So I think that a badass marauder might have just spawned, and the badass marauders are always going to have a special type of shield. I think this one will have a Nova shield, or he might have had an amp shield. And the amp shield ones are more dangerous for gun-based characters, but I find that the Nova shields are actually very dangerous for melee Zer0. So, I guess when I'm playing Sniper Zer0, I prefer for them to have the Nova shields. And when I'm playing melee Zer0, I'd like for them to have the amp shields. The amp shields are dangerous with both, but I find that the Nova shields are especially dangerous with melee Zer0 because you'll be up close to them and in that Nova range, and you'll often be stripping your shield with a electric grenade, which will cause in most cases, the enemy shield to deplete, setting off that Nova. And that's something that can be pretty difficult to deal with sometimes because it'll put that damage over time on you. And it can be, you know, a death sentence in some cases. So, I don't know. Just something to note about these badass marauders if you haven't noticed it before. So, we're kind of to the midget parade now, which means that we're pretty much through this gauntlet. There'll be a couple Goliaths for us to kill and a few, probably a little over a dozen of these little midgets for us to kill, so I guess that's kind of neat, but it's not incredibly difficult. If those badass marauders had had damage over time guns and amp shields, they might have been a little bit more difficult and made this a little bit more difficult, but as of right now, it's really not that bad. As you can see, though, I am relying on the B and Herald and Sandhawk and stuff to actually work through these enemies because they are so tough. I'm not liking that this guy is just kind of sitting up there hiding at the moment. That's not cool at all. Excellent. Would like to be able to see that guy. There we go. Oh, I would love to be able to jump crit him here, but I can't do it. At least knocking him into rage mode will send him down here a little bit quicker. So that was good. Excellent. And that'll be the end of the Slab Initiation Gauntlet, so that's pretty cool. I definitely thought this was cool here, this little cutscene where Brick happens to jump down here, and he grabs Sledge's hammer along the way. I think that that's pretty neat. It's weird that they had him standing up just a minute ago, and then he was sitting in the chair when the cutscene happened. Small little attention to detail error there, but I did like them bringing in Sledge's hammer. That was another throwback to Borderlands 1, and I thought that that was pretty cool. Here's something that's actually good attention to detail. This little note says, "I owe you 1 world saved, B." And that was the note he gave to Roland. I think that that's kind of funny. We'll go ahead and get ready to kill the Sarcastic Slab here. He's probably the toughest enemy in the game, maybe other than Bunker for Sniper Zer0. He's really, really tough. Some people didn't realize when I said that Bunker was going to be difficult with Sniper Zer0 after the Bloodwing fight, that I was being entirely sarcastic there. You know, that was, I thought it was obvious sarcasm that you all would pick up on, but a couple people had missed that for whatever reason. So I'm going to go ahead and throw on my Corrosive Bone of the Ancients here, and maybe this as well, because we're going to be fighting some loaders here. And this next section is really quite easy. The loaders are few and far between. The only real potentially difficult part is if a badass buzzard spawns in the second mortar beacon area. These mortars don't do an incredible amount of damage, and they are pretty easy to avoid. I think that as we go through here, we're going to fight just a few gunloaders in this very first area. In the second area, we kill a warloader and then a couple gunloaders. I've never done this before with Sniper Zer0, but I know that loaders are really easy to kill with Sniper Zer0, so it shouldn't really be that bad. Immediately caught a shock damage over time there. That was kind of weird. I'm not really going to try to build up any critical ascension on these guys or anything like that, because I know that as we go through this, there will be several sections where we have to wait on Brick to actually blow up a mortar beacon shield, and that will probably deplete all of our critical ascension. One thing that I don't really like at all is that Brick and other frenemies, or I call them frenemies because sometimes they're your friend, sometimes they actually work against you, but your allies here can actually absorb your transfusion trails, which I find to be pretty irritating at times. I guess the area where it's most irritating is probably Angel's control core area, I would say. But overall, it's not that bad. Just a, minor nuance that I'm not a fan of. I guess I want to move this to the top slot. Alright, so there'll be a few gunloaders for us to take out here. Sometimes the gunloaders will focus exclusively on Brick and work at weird angles to, where you're trying to shoot them from, but they won't be shooting at you because they'll be focused on Brick. So, I don't know, it's just something to watch out for. It seems like more often than not, these loaders will concentrate exclusively on Brick. Maybe not exclusively, but it seems like half of them or more will concentrate on Brick instead of you, and it makes this area that would otherwise already be really easy, even easier. Thanks, Brick, for making it so that I couldn't retreat there. That's where the frenemy stuff comes into play. I was trying to back up, and Brick was standing there on those stairs, so you kind of have to watch out for the AI. I don't know, sometimes it'll get in your way more than it will help you. This really wouldn't be that difficult, but I guess it's fun to, follow Brick and stuff like that, but sometimes he can get in the way. It really irritates me that he won't run into an ion loader shield and punch the ion loader. Because there is going to be at least one ion loader usually that spawns here, and that's something that irritates me a little bit. Hopefully the buzzard that will be in the air will concentrate on the loaders instead of us. Like I said, that's the only part that can potentially be dangerous. just something I've noticed. And this particular area for fighting buzzards is extra irritating because of the terrain that flanks you on both sides, these little walls and stuff like that. It can be a irritating deal because the buzzards will fly away for extended periods of time and then pop up out of nowhere again. So that's something that I've noticed. I need to pick up some ammo real quick. That was my mistake. But now we have just this ion loader. Now that Brick's actually fighting him, he won't be able to get his shield up again. But it's something that you do have to watch out for. So Brick's going to go to that next mortar beacon and stuff. This next part I've always found to be especially anticlimactic because Jack's going to send in one ultimate badass loader. And it's not as if ultimate badass loaders can't be dangerous. They can be very dangerous. But since he concentrates exclusively on Brick, it's very easy to take him out because he won't even shoot at you. He'll just try to stomp at Brick, and Brick's invincible, so you just stand a little bit away, and that guy's really easy to kill. I've found that to be a little bit anticlimactic after Jack says, how hard is it to kill one Vault Hunter and a walking slab of meat? It's just something I've noticed. A little bit weird. So we're going to head to Sanctuary now, and then we're going to probably my least favorite part, other than Angel's Core, of the main campaign, and that is Opportunity. Opportunity is definitely not my favorite map in the game. I'll go over some of the reasons why after we get there and stuff, but it's just not that cool. In my opinion, I don't like some of the things that exist there. I wanted to get my grenade jumping grenade here because it's helpful, but probably wasted time doing that. But oh well, it was definitely a flawless grenade jump there, so that worked out. Cool. So, like I said, now we're heading to Opportunity. In order to get there, we'll just go ahead and fast travel to the Hyperion Bridge, and then we can drive straight into Opportunity. I've never taken out Handsome Jack's body double as Sniper Zer0 before, so maybe that will be difficult for us, but my plan is to use the Shock Lyuda, a Shockbone of the Ancients, Deception, Slag, and Kunai, and I think that will take out most of his health and probably cause some hit stun on him, and then we'll be able to kill him before he runs away. And what you really want to do is avoid him running away, because the enemies that spawn and stuff are infinitely respawning, and depending on what actually spawns, it can be quite difficult. So that'll be something that you do have to watch out for. I'm going to go ahead and put back on my Slag Transfusion grenade. I'll put on the Shockbone of the Ancients for now, and a Shock Lyuda. Just because I'm also going to put that on for just a moment and throw it. Oops, that's not what I wanted. And like I said, depending on what loaders and Hyperion personnel spawn, it can be difficult. The Angelic Guards are tough, and the Hyperion personnel are fairly likely to spawn with damage over time weapons, which obviously are something that you really want to watch out for. I think I might have taken a wrong turn here. Opportunity is one of the few maps from the main campaign that I don't have memorized, or at least close to memorized. I don't really know the way to go in this map and stuff. Ooh, caught a good damage over time right away. That's always something that is really nice. Get my shield regenerating there and get some health back. Alright, so I want to get down to Jack. I want to slag him. Throw some preemptive slag grenades if I have time. Get Kunai on him, and then kill him, hopefully, with the Shock Lyuda. And, of course, his backpedal game is super strong right now. Definitely a good thing. Alright, so definitely need to get some transfusion trails coming in here. There is very little cover. I'm gonna die unless these transfusion trails get to us. Excellent. So now we have to wait for Angel to actually tell us to put the pocket watch in there before I've definitely put the pocket watch in this little thing before and ran off before Angel had told me to do that. And the objective never changed for me, and I thought I had broke the game, but I just had to go back and put that pocket watch in there. Now, this next part is something that I actually don't have memorized. I don't remember the best path to go from info kiosk to info kiosk. I know one's right here, and that there's another one not too far away. I don't always remember that Hyperion turret right there. Alright, so we'll go to the next one now. I'll just try to look on my mini-map and take a fairly straightforward path to these, but it may not be the best path. Who knows?
I almost have what I need. Just activate a few more kiosks.
Cool. Got a follow-through bonus there. Like I said, I don't know the best path between these things, unfortunately, so hopefully the path I take here isn't too terrible. I think usually going into that construction site slows me down quite a bit when I do that, so going to avoid that in this case. But I'm not going to engage all the enemies in here, and that's for a specific reason. The enemies during this section are actually infinitely respawning. When you kill one, another one pops up, and I've always found that to be a little bit weird because it's something that I can't really remember happening in too many other places in the game. I guess the enemies right near the train tracks in Lynchwood are infinitely respawning, but they're on a timer. They don't replace each other one after another like they do in here. And it's, like I said, something that I found a little bit weird on multiple occasions. Sometimes I was like, oh, I'll just sit here until I kill all the enemies, and it will be really easy for me to, man, I'm lost here. It will be really easy for me to progress after that, but, you know, they were infinitely respawning, and it took me a moment to realize that because I didn't expect it. It's not something that happens a lot in Borderlands 2, so it can catch you off guard, I guess. We're almost to the last info kiosk here. We'll try to avoid catching a damage over time or anything like that as we go to press this last one, and then we got to go in this little hallway and upload this to Angel, and then we'll be out of here. And I guess that will probably be the end of the episode. I unfortunately did not check how far or, you know, how much time we had started this at and how much time this has actually taken after that. So I'm not exactly sure how long this episode is, but I guess we accomplished, you know, some stuff. We went and met with Brick and then blew up those mortar beacons and stuff, and then we came here to Opportunity, and I guess the next episode starting at the Ascent to Bunker is a good place for it to start. Maybe not the best. Oops, see, this is where I get a little bit lost here in Opportunity. I need to get to this hallway. I think I can get to it from over here, actually. Yeah. Or no. Yes. Ooh, hot loader. Not good. Back up. Kill that hot loader before we catch a fire damage over time or get blowed up. Now, I think as we do this, there will be a couple guys who will run in and try to kill us. Ooh, we got an E-Tech pistol. That's not really a good thing, but somewhat rare, I guess. We'll try to find these dudes who are going to try to come ambush us. I guess they didn't come. I feel like they usually come. I thought this was a nice touch, the speak in Jack's voice thing. I kind of like that. If you do a bunch of side quests, you'll get extra time to speak like Jack, and that's kind of cool. That's something that's kind of neat. If you want to do a whole bunch of side quests speaking as Jack, it's just one of the quirky things you can do in Borderlands 2. And I like that. That's pretty cool. So, we'll go turn this in Sanctuary, and then talk to Claptrap, and then the next episode we'll pick up in Thousand Cuts. Exactly, you know, in the same geographical location as this episode started, but obviously further in the Borderlands 2 quest line than this particular one had began at. Ooh, another chance to execute my really cool grenade jump. You can see those green items that I left on the ground. We still made it. Not all the way up, but still pretty good.
Hey, Slab.
I think it's cool that Brick does the one-arm push-ups. He's swole. Alright.
This is it, everybody.
I guess looking back, it would be pretty obvious that Roland is going to die because Roland does not provide any side quest. And if you were really perceptive, you might have noticed that. That's right, Clappy. Hopefully, he gives me this objective to talk to Claptrap in just a minute. Kind of waiting on it here. I don't remember having to wait on this. I wonder if I pick up this, if some of the dialogue will skip. Ah, nope. All right.
This is gonna be fun.
All right, so now we'll go to 1,000 cuts and cut the episode off. Like I said, guys, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I have been quite enjoying this series, and I hope you guys have been too. As always, I do hope to catch you next time. In the next episode, we'll have us going to Bunker and stuff, so it should be pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and cut the episode off now, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye, guys.